also did comment about the 2026 recruiting class. He was asked about it, which surprised me. I didn't think anybody was going to talk recruiting at this press conference, but here's what he had to say about the 26 class.
I've tried to do with this year's class.
Yeah. Well, you know, it really comes down to, you know, once you get to December, you know, that's what's going to matter. You've seen, and now more than ever, where you see guys, you know, commit someplace, go somewhere else, and things change. So, you know, we feel like we have some really good guys committed right now, and you know, we're going to make a hard push here over the next couple months to finish out the class, and then figure out, you know, what's right in the transfer portal for us. But you know, we feel like it's really important to make sure we have the right guys and the right fit, and our coaches are working hard towards that, and have all confidence in the world we're going to sign a great class.
Right guys and the right fit. That's, you know, 1A for them. They don't want to bring guys in that aren't that and just end up getting flushed out of the program. And they identify, you know, a couple hundred of those guys every year. You're at a class of 21 right now, soon to be 22, I believe, with mentor lineman LANDRY BREDE, who is going to flip from NC State to Ohio State. He's coming to take his visit. And what he said there was, I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like this reflexive thing that as people who really follow recruiting, like me and a couple of guys in here, like my buddy General Chrome, like guys like us that follow recruiting a lot, when we're talking recruiting in like June and Ohio State misses on a recruit and it's like, oh man, we missed on a recruit. The retort from people who don't follow recruiting is wait till December. And when Ryan Day talked about, you know, December, it was like, oh no, he said it. It's like the dreaded retort, right? Essentially, it's like we're hoping that guys come available so we can go get them. That's kind of what that sounds like to me. And that's not always the greatest strategy. You would prefer to see that they had their hooks in on somebody, as you do need some help at corner. You need some help at edge. And that is certainly probably not coming in the form of any top prospect. The top 300 right now, because the recruiting calendar has moved up, like 90% of the top 300 already committed. June is kind of where these guys are all taking their official visits and committing before the season, when it used to be just a few years ago, they would take their officials during the season and then commit before December. So yeah, waiting till December used to be a thing. Now, there is a project kid right now out of Shelby, Ohio, that they're taking a look at, 6'5", 235. He looks aggressive, muscular, poor competition, average lateral quicks. Doesn't look immediately like an Ohio State offer, but got space on the roster. And where do you take flyers when you have space on the roster? On the lines of scrimmage, first and foremost, especially from Ohio. Which kind of leads me to the next topic. As you know, or maybe you don't if you're new around here, I'm kind of old school in the type that I think if you are going to take a flyer on a 3-star kid who looks like a project, that you don't bypass an Ohio kid project to go pick a project from somewhere else, because that Ohio kid brings an intangible that an out-of-state kid doesn't have. And not everybody sees it that way anymore, and I get it. You'll never convince me otherwise, because I was that kid. My friends were those dudes. Jake Cook was that kind of dude. And we see him every year. Guys that would walk on their knees over glass playing high school football in Ohio to get a sniff from Ohio State. And we see a guy like Jake Cook now living his dream and doing so well. The obstacles that he overcame to get that offer, it's awesome. It's special. And when you carry that with you into the Ohio State program, it stays with you and it stays in the program and it means something. And, you know, that's just my view on it when it comes to flyers. Now, I don't think it makes any sense to take the particular tack that we have seen for 40 years now when it comes to slow playing Ohio kids. And it's really got us in a jam recently. Let's say, for instance, what I mean by slow playing, for those of you who are not into this world, if you like a kid, let's say you like a kid, you're kind of iffy on him, you might want to offer him, and he's from North Carolina. Well, you go ahead and offer him. But if he's from Ohio, in this weird twist, you wouldn't offer him. And the reason you wouldn't offer him is because the conventional wisdom is you'd be better off to wait, because you really need to be sure about a kid from Ohio. Because if you offer that kid from Ohio and you're not sure, and you might want to, you might back out on that offer, you're going to cause all sorts of problems. All the high school coaches are going to hate you. You're never going to get another prospect out of that city, maybe even that county. And that's kind of the way it's always worked. So Ohio State and other schools like Ohio State that are the big school in their state do this thing where they kind of slow play these guys and wait to give them the offer. And you see that right now. We're just seeing it with Landry BREDE, right? Landry BREDE committed to NC State, and Ohio State, he was, they knew all about him. We've talked about him for a long time here on the show. Well, they had other plans. And when those other plans don't work out, all right, you go kick the tires on this local kid and see if you can flip him from NC State. There's just a different scenario going on now, right? Like NC State, he's a pretty big time recruit. He's one of their top 10 recruits, and they're maxing out their $20 million. For Ohio State, he's in the bottom third of the class of priorities. They're maxing out their $20 million. So now you've got this big dollar discrepancy. Now, I don't think it matters with Landry BREDE. I think he's going to be a Buckeye. But you can just kind of take this scenario all over the place with these different kinds of scenarios where they've slow played guys from Ohio, and it hasn't worked out. Adam Guthrie, 4-star offensive lineman, guy had 32 offers, 6'7", 290-pound tackle, moves really good, had camped at Ohio State, and they didn't offer him for so long. And they literally waited, no joke, till the day after Georgia offered him, the very day. Which, how does that make you feel? Like a little slighted? Wouldn't you feel a little slighted? Maybe think like maybe they don't actually want me. They just want to keep me in the wings. And sure, of course, we know that's exactly what happened. He ends up committing to Clemson. Now, Ohio State would like to have him in the class, but at that time, they had guys they wanted more above him. And there's, a skill to this and luck to it, how the pieces shape together. It's never going to be perfect. But in the era that we're currently in, I think this makes no sense anymore to do this when you think you have a borderline Ohio guy. Because now you've gone from 85 scholarships up to 105. Now, the 105, everyone you add takes money off the cap, right? So it costs you and gives you a little less money to work with. But you've got flexibility now to make some of these offers earlier and accept them with confidence, particularly when it comes to offensive and defensive linemen. That's where we take those flyers to keep those kids home. If it doesn't work, they can now transfer out. No harm, no foul. It's good on their resume. Everybody's happy. But you sure as hell don't want to see them go and develop somewhere else. And sometimes we see that happen when they're juniors or seniors. And I feel good for those Ohio kids and understand why, Ohio State wasn't in on them at the time. They needed a lot of development. Ohio State usually ended up with a better prospect. Is what it is. That's how it goes. But sometimes they're a guy that Ohio State really wanted. They just waited too damn long to offer him. And you instantly know, man, that was a screw up. And that is the case with Chaz Coleman. And I brought this up the other day, and I'm just having a really hard time getting over this one, man. Like, this isn't a hindsight 2020 type of deal. I can dig in the archives and pull up us breaking down the film of Chaz Coleman. Chaz Coleman was the real deal, man. The real deal. He is 6'5", 240 pounds, a basketball high-flying dunker, averaged like 16 points a game, a quarterback, a safety, a linebacker, an edge. He was a rare one out of Warren, Ohio, a true dynamic edge rusher. And Ohio State had him on camp. They had him camp in June and didn't choose to offer him till late November. Top 300 kid and rising steadily. And now he is at Penn State. I mean, to tell you, like, the athleticism on this kid just jumps off the page. There's no denying it. By the time that they got around to offering him, he was going to come for a visit, but then Penn State talked him out of it. And it was just too late. Penn State had their hooks in him. And we are sitting here, we talk about the big time edge rusher misses, and they always sting, right? They're hard to get, man. talk about the Dylan Stewarts of the world, the 5 stars that everybody in the country wants. But I don't expect Ohio State to land even 25% of those kind of guys that they're in on, even 15%. Like, it's hard to land those type of dudes. They're rare. Everybody wants them. But when they're in your backyard and nobody is even in on them, and somehow you either couldn't see it or wanted to slow play the kid, that is just terrible, man. That's terrible. And this one stinks. Charles Power. Charles Power said his game reminds him so far at Penn State of watching Dylan Stewart last year. That's Chaz Coleman at Penn State in year 1. And this is a guy playing on a loaded defense as a true freshman, number 3 team in the country. The list of Ohio players that Ohio State wanted that got out of state in 2024 and 2025 to places like Oregon, Penn State, USC, Clemson, North Carolina, Alabama, Texas A&M is longer than anybody could have imagined before NIL. In fact, I remember doing a show, several of them, back when I first started the show, and Trey McNutt, 5-star safety out of Shaker Heights, I knew he wasn't going to go to Ohio State, and people were laughing at me because it was so far-fetched for them to imagine that a 5-star from Cleveland, whose dad played at Ohio State, wasn't going to end up at Ohio State. And truthfully, it had been a while since we had experienced like 5-star guys like that leaving the state. And now we've seen just gobs of top Ohio prospects leaving the state. But none of them, in my opinion, we can go back and talk about, the Justin Hills of the world, the Rock Hills of the world. What are they? These are guys that are big time recruits who are also big time in on the money end of it with Oregon, with Alabama. And that makes things different now, right? That makes things very different. Like, now it almost seems you take away, when you get involved in this money thing, you take away a little bit of the, the hometown discount's gone, and it doesn't feel like the same connection as a local kid from Warren just getting fought over by Ohio State and Penn State. That's the point. Nobody knew about him. This wasn't a big time Dylan Stewart, Justin Hill type deal. Nobody knew about him. He's right down the street. You had him on camp. And I think, and I hope that we see a lot of this rectified with the in-state kids, the slow playing of guys like Braden Feaster at Hoban right now. And I could go on and on about the class of 27 already. But I hope that we start to see an end to this. They get their hooks in early and get to those guys before somebody else can get to them, because you can take more borderline guys now. And I think that those positions should be invested into local guys who are those borderline guys. Now, Chaz Coleman wasn't a borderline guy. And I think that when we come back, hopefully in a couple of years, this will be over with. It'll be much better. We're not going to see 10 impact guys, 10 impact players in the last 2 years leave the state. But Chaz Coleman, I believe, will be the face of all these guys, the one that really stands out over Justin Hill and Trey McNutt and Vic Singleton and on we go. It'll be Chaz Coleman. That's the one that stings. The Chazmanian Devil stings the most. And that one is going to consistently be egg in our face when we watch this kid showing out at Penn State for the next 3 years. Now, important to note, this has nothing to do with Zion Grady or Epi Satanile. I like both, watched them both at practice, felt even better about him than I already did, particularly Epi, who is a little further behind Zion right now, came in, later than Zion, and put on quite a bit of weight from high school. Already looks like, okay, man, that's a couple more pounds, and he looks like he's NFL ready. Like, they both look really, really good right off the rip. This is an in addition to, like, you don't ascend to the role he is getting in that defense, a veteran-led defense, unless you're grinding like crazy. So got the traits, know he can play, also has that clearly. And that crew, those three, and you needed the number. Right now you're hustling. You're taking a look at Carter Kessler out of Shelby, Ohio. Never would have sniffed him in a normal class if things had been going like you wanted him to, right? So you got Kari Wilder, Epi, Zion, and Chaz. And now all of a sudden, this looks like a reemergence of a disaster of an edge rushing crew. Like Hellraisers, man. Hellraisers. But you're missing the best part. He's at Penn State now. And not to say that I don't think Epi and Zion have huge ceilings. You just look at what Chaz is doing right now, and it has all the signals of, okay, this is a guy who's going to be first team All-American preseason next year. And it sucks, man. Irks me, bud. It irks me. Nonetheless, man, you live and learn. I just hope that the lessons are going to be implemented here. And I understand the responsibility that they feel they have with these Ohio offers and how they're very, very careful with it. Ryan Day gives every single one of those out himself. They treat him very differently, right? That's the whole point here is I don't think they need to be treated with such caution anymore, because you can take the number if it's going to be an issue, if you don't want a guy like, and you could feel out if it's going to be an issue. You know what I mean? Like they did a couple years back, 2 years back, a kid from Toledo, they offered him tangentially. He was a lineman from Toledo. They offered him, but he needed to lose some weight and stay in shape and show them, some progression with that. He didn't uphold his end of the bargain. He didn't get his offer. He ended up going, I think he might have went to a MAC school. So, clearly it was kind of a flyer situation. There's lots of things you can do. It just feels like you can do it better than this. You could do it better than this without letting guys walk out the door because you're too doggone late. Anyway, as far as the class of 2026, Carter Kessler, checked him out. Hey, if you want to take a flyer on an Ohio kid that has size and wants to be a Buckeye, man, if they think that's the way to go, I'd love to have them in the program, see what they can do with them. That'd be awesome. There is also, the conversation on the defensive line. Like, there's a lot of people upset with the lack of sacks right now. Probably the only question of concern that I got from people on the post-game show was, well, I guess there was two. Somewhat lack of a push from the offensive line, lack of an explosion. I don't really think that's an issue. They're going to keep gelling and keep getting better, but the lack of sacks from edges and the lack of Kenyatta making an impact, the lack of Curry coming off the edge making an impact, or Bo Atkinson or Hicks, no sacks from the edges, and I think it's just a direct result of playing these Arch, the kid from Grambling. Now I think we'll see the same thing from Ohio and Washington. These quarterbacks that are run threats, that when you're in a passing situation, the Buckeyes have been spying Arvell with a 3-man rush, and that's going to be really difficult to get a sack rushing 3 with 5 offensive linemen, and then you got Arvell spying. It's going to be real difficult to do that. So I think it's just the way that they've had to play these running quarterbacks, and I think they've played it perfect, getting enough pressure, having Arvell spy, and he can take off and go if he wants to. It's just a better way to play it. It's worked out perfectly. So should we be worried about those sacks? No, I don't think we should be worried about it at all. I don't think it means that it can't be done. I don't think they've been let loose like that in a situation where they're facing a pure drop back passer, a guy who's not a huge threat to run. They're going to play that differently, and they'll probably give those guys the green light. Go get them. And when we see a game like that and we don't see them getting any pressure or getting close to getting home, then we'll talk about concern. I just think we came into this year, a lot of us thinking, all right, Kenyatta is going to probably rack up some sacks here. And remember, middle of the year last year, we were all talking about our sack totals for Jack and JT. Like, geez, we were way off. We thought they'd get way more than this. And they both ended up getting up there, right, in the numbers of sacks. So way too early to be concerned about that yet. And I think it's just how they're playing defense right now. And we will see that change as we move along the season. But more and more of these guys run, right? And I love the way they're playing this with the 3 down linemen, Caden Curry at nose, and then Veli spying. It's great. So, all right. Appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for coming to my my talk today, and I will talk to you soon. Don't forget, join me on Saturday at is it an 8:30 game or a 7:30? Saturday prime time. Matter of fact, I'll come on when the primetime shows, when the primetime games start. And, obviously we'll have all the primetime games going. We'll talk Buckeyes. We'll talk all the other games, but we will kick it right here on Saturday for the games. So come join me, join us in the chat, and I'll talk to you then. Or I'll also guess I'll talk to you tomorrow on Friday's show too. So both of those times we'll talk. All right. See you then. Thanks. Big noon kickoff, obviously.